guys, what's going on, dudes? It is David and we are back with another video. Now in this video, guys, I'm going to be doing my reaction to the Formula 1 Grand Prix that just finished at Austria. And can I just say, this was definitely one of the best races that we've had this year in Formula 1. I'm not really a big Formula 1 fan, but this was one of the best races. Austria, I've heard a lot of people say Austria doesn't usually produce good races. And sometimes they have a good race, like when Hamilton and Rosberg got into each other, and then Rosberg ended up cutting his Rosberg ended up losing his front wing and had to go to pit. Hamilton ended up winning that race. That was a very good race. But today's race was just fantastic. Now I'm gonna go into the race, and I'm gonna go into I'm gonna go into the finishers. Then I'm gonna go into the actual race and the stuff that happens that made this race like fully exciting today. So the finishers of the race, Max Verstappen won the Austrian Grand Prix at the Red Bull Ring, and there was a lot of orange in the crowd, man. I mean, like, I'm still watching it on TV, it's still going on. There's a whole bunch of orange in the crowd, but Verstappen drove his heart out today, and this guy has basically become a more mature Formula 1 driver, and I really think he will be one of the very best come next year. If not even this year, if he has a chance, if Red Bull pick out their place. And this is Honda's first win since Jenson Button in, I think they said 2006. This proves to you that Honda made the right decision, well, Red Bull made the right decision to keep with Honda. Now, Verstappen did win in under controversial circumstance, because I think on one of the final laps, I think it was like the 67th lap, he went for the pass against Leclerc. I'm actually rewatching it right now. He dives down the inside of Leclerc. He turns the wheel and kind of bumps into Leclerc, and then Leclerc kind of turns into him. But I mean, like, when he comes out of the corner, he's still ahead of Leclerc, so it's really Verstappen's corner, and Leclerc should have backed out. And plus, I don't really think they should give him a penalty, because if he hasn't like turned the wheel yet, like the Rosberg thing where Rosberg did not turn the wheel at all, then he should get a penalty. But in this case, Max Verstappen had the wheel like fully turned, and there's nothing he could have done, and Leclerc has the right to be upset, because that would have been his first Formula 1 Grand Prix win. But you gotta understand, if Max Verstappen has the wheel, yes, he dived in pretty late, and he he kept it in the corner, but if he has his wheel fully turned, there's nothing he could have done. He could have overcorrected it, but that would have been bad for both of them, and one of them would have probably wrecked out, and it probably would have been Leclerc. But Verstappen just drove his heart out, and on the first lap, he had anti-stall, which is where I guess the engine doesn't, like, if you don't have enough revs, the engine doesn't go, and he was P8 after the first lap. P8, and he won the race. In my honest opinion, if I was going to give somebody else a driver today, I'm not going to talk about him yet, but Verstappen P8 on lap 1 to first place. And yes, they're looking at it right now. Verstappen did have the corner, so Leclerc should have really backed out. This is Verstappen's race. This is Verstappen's actual 6th win in Formula 1, and he deserves to keep the win. Leclerc, I know you're upset, man, but there's nothing Verstappen could have done. You can't be upset with him. He had the corner, so there's nothing you could be upset with him. But yeah, Verstappen P1, Leclerc P2. Bottas in a calm P3 just drove his race and managed to keep P3. Vettel in P4, Vettel had a very good start. He was up to, I think he was up to P4 at the end of the second lap, and then he ended up getting past Hamilton because Hamilton had to change his front wing on the first stop because he felt like something was wrong with his front wing and he had no more front downforce going into the corners. So he had to change his wing. That cost him, it was an 11-second pit stop that cost him a position to Max Verstappen and Sebastian Vettel, because if you guys remember, Lewis Hamilton did in fact start P4. So that really cost him 2 positions. Hamilton ended up finishing P5. Lando Norris. This guy is gonna be one of the best in the future. Lando Norris. He started, yes he did, I think he started P5 and he ended up finishing P6. And notice, mostly when they made the first pit stops, everybody went on hard tires. This guy, when he pitted, he went on to another set of mediums, and he went the whole race on those mediums. That is actually very impressive to me, considering Vettel came in to put on another set of softs. which is the red stripe tires. And he still did not get the fastest lap because Max Verstappen on mediums got the fastest lap, which means Max Verstappen got 26 points in the championship. But after Norris, it was Pierre Gasly, Max Verstappen's teammate, just drove a quiet race, finishing P7 is okay for Gasly, but this guy needs to pick it up now that Verstappen's won a race in the same car as him. He needs to pick up the pace if he wants to keep that Red Bull seat, because if not, oh man, there's gonna be a lot of drivers that are gonna be going for that Red Bull seat. Carlos Sainz in P8. Carlos Sainz started from the back. Carlos Sainz started from P19 at the back of the field, and he managed to drive his way up to P8. If it wasn't Verstappen doing all this, winning the race, I would have gave the driver of the day to Carlos Sainz. But due to Verstappen being P8 after lap 1, after starting P2 and then winning the race, I gotta give the driver of the day to Max Verstappen. The last two finishers, P9, P10, were Raikkonen and Giovinazzi, which means it's a double points for Mercedes, Red Bull, Ferrari, McLaren, and Alfa Romeo. Can you believe that? There were 5 teams in the top 10. There was not like a mix up, like one driver from a team missed out. It was actually 5 teams, 5 in the top 10. Raikkonen, he drove a quiet race. I mean, he was ahead of Norris after the first lap, but Norris was able to get past him, and then he started just driving and going back because his tires, I guess, were starting to kind of get worn. And Giovinazzi just drove a very good race, picked up his first points in Formula 1. Funny enough, 1 point, but it's his first points in Formula 1. So now there are only 2 drivers in the Formula 1 standings that have not secured a point. And I'm pretty sure it's both the Williams drivers. But other than that, that's the whole top 10. The rest of the finishers were Perez finishing 11th, Ricciardo finishing 12th, Hülkenberg 13th, Lance Stroll 14th, Alexander Albon 15th, Romain Grosjean 16th, Daniel Kvyat 17th, George Russell in 18th. He actually beat a Haas. Kevin Magnussen finishing 19th, and then Robert Kubica finishing in 20th. Now, the important moments of the race. Hold on, Magnussen? The way Magnussen had a poor start, but I mean, he did kind of ruin himself because he was improperly on the grid. His tires are supposed to be like on the same space as a yellow line, and his tires were ahead of the yellow line, which is kind of like getting an advantage. So they gave him a drive-through penalty after he had already pit like 2 laps before. So Magnussen's race was already there. Ricciardo, Hülkenberg, the Renaults just didn't have the pace over the McLarens or the Alfa Romeos today. The Racing Point, Perez doing very good in P11. Lance Stroll doing in P14, so that's a decent. I would say that's a decent race for them. But the ones I just say had like probably the horrible day is Haas. Like, I don't even know where Haas is. Haas is supposed to be an American team, so I'm supposed to be supporting them because I'm American. But Haas were nowhere today, and it proves the point. Grosjean finishing 16th and Magnussen finishing 19th. And then the Toro Rosso is just having an off day probably too. Same thing as them. And then the Williams, Kubica is just terrible. That Williams is just terrible. But Russell got a P18 out of it. He beat a Haas, so I gotta give him that. And I think Russell will be up in Force India next year. If he continues to beat teams, even though this Williams car sucked, if he continues to beat teams, then he would definitely be up in Force India next year, probably with Lance Stroll. But besides that, I've already talked about Verstappen lap 1 incident. There was also I've talked about Hamilton having to change his front wing and everything like that. It was just crazy, man. It was just really, really crazy. But other than that, guys, I mean, there's nothing really else to talk about because there were no really incidents. There were a lot of good battles in the back of the pack, like with around Norris, Gasly, Raikkonen, Giovinazzi. There were a lot of decent passes. I mean, there were some outside passes, and I gotta say, like I said before, this Austrian Grand Prix was one of the best races of the season, and the next race will be the British Grand Prix, so everybody will probably say Hamilton's the favorite. But if you remember last year, Hamilton didn't win it. It was Sebastian Vettel that won it. But that's in 2 weeks, and I'll probably have a preview for that race next weekend, considering that way everybody just gets hyped up ready to go. But otherwise, guys, that's it for the video. Please do smash the like button. But anyway, guys, I'll see you guys all later. Peace.